Welcome to Let's Relieve Regret, the uplifting podcast where we talk about how to relieve what you're worrying about.
It can feel so good to finally let go. Let go of past hurts, let go of old grudges, let go of self-doubt, self-shame.
The thing is, we aren't always given the tools to let go. We're told to get over it, or it's time to move on. But how do we do that?
We will share our stories, tools, and strategies of how we let go to help you let go.
Let's begin. Welcome, everybody, to the Let's Relieve Regret podcast. My name is Victoria Mirabercia, and I will be your host for today with my co-host,
Shadoe Ball.
I love how we have this pattern now, and you're just like, Shadoe Ball.
Well, you introduce it so nicely,
I love how you do it too.
Okay.
Anyways, welcome to Let's Relieve Regret podcast. We're so happy to have you here and so happy that you've been supporting us along this journey, and we hope that it's been supporting you too. How are you feeling today, Shadoe, on a scale of 1 to 10?
I'm about 6 to 7. Yeah, it's still pretty early in the day, so I feel like I want to give myself room to be higher, but I also know that I don't know, I'm dragging my feet a little today. Haven't been sleeping the greatest this week, but then on Wednesday I had a mega sleep, so catching up. I'm catching up. How about you?
I love the mega sleeps.
Mm-hmm.
What is a mega sleep for you? 10 hours?
Yeah, I mean, this past one was almost 12.
Wow. Wee.
It was 11 and a half because I went to bed at 9:30, put on a meditation, probably fell asleep halfway through that meditation, and then got out of bed at 8:30, but I was up around 8. So probably in the 11 to 12 range there.
Amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, a mega sleep for me is between 11 and 12 too. And
Mm-hmm.
we're kind of celebrating them right now, but we need to remind ourselves that it shouldn't be that we sleep 4 hours a night and then have one mega sleep.
Totally.
We need to find ways to sleep because sleep's important. But
yeah,
I'm gonna give myself I'm kind of similar to what you're saying. It's early in the morning today. Maybe you can hear it in our voices, but I'm gonna go for a 7 because there's room to grow. I haven't been for my walk yet. I'm sitting underneath my light therapy lamp right now, and so it'll take effect shortly. And
and it's above 0 degrees Celsius, but not much.
And rainy though. We have the massive amounts of rain last night, and it's supposed to rain all day today. So I'm gonna try to go for a walk in the rain, but we'll see how far I get. I might only get to the cafe and then turn around. But
it's funny. I put up a reel a couple days ago about the fog and how foggy it's been, and I said, "Who knew that the snow would be mist?" And no one laughed. No one made it or no one groaned.
Share it to the Let's Relieve Regret one because I'll laugh.
I made it a little poll where you could pick the emoji reaction. So there was a laughing, an eye roll, and a mad. Because I like to make jokes that make people mad.
Shadoe's gonna put that up on the Let's Relieve Regret Instagram account. React to it. Let's give Shadoe a little boost here for her amazing puns. You had a good pun in the last episode too.
It's hard for me to stop.
I love good puns. I love them. I love a good pun.
Yeah, it's hard for me to stop actually, and even sometimes during serious moments, I have to bite my tongue because I'm thinking of puns, and I've learned that they're not always appreciated during certain.
Oh my gosh, I love them so. My family loves them so much too. So I come from a family that's appreciate them. My favorite one is, or one that I learned recently was, I went camping with my family. It was intense. See?
Nice. I like it. I like it.
I love them too.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're gonna post it, and we're all gonna respond.
Okay.
Do you have a cause for applause?
Yeah, actually, I know that just last week I used my cause for applause of talking to someone, but I'm going to follow that up again with saying this week I met up with a former client, and we were supposed to just have a quick tea and a coffee, and I had some things I wanted to give her because when she was my client, she was working on this project. project's an ongoing project, so I had collected like supplies for it.
Hmm.
But I wanted to meet up with her so that I could hand over those supplies. And we had our little chat, and then we ended up chatting for like another 2 hours after, just about like lots of deep stuff and lots of interesting things. And she had such great feedback, and like it was just like such a fulfilling conversation. And it was in person, and there was like other people around us. So I was also kind of
Mm.
like, like getting some energy from that. Yeah, so that was just really nice. And again, a reminder that we were talking about last week with like that human connection piece, like when you're feeling really down and stuff, like it sounds almost cliche, but just go talk to someone. And you don't have to just like tell them everything. Like, yes, I had a very good purging conversation with this person, but I think even just being around strangers again and like, making eye contact and smiling and
Hmm.
waving and like all those kinds of things that like we've become a little rusty at, it's good to practice them again.
Yeah, it all matters, right? All
Yeah.
connection matters. It
Mm-hmm.
doesn't always have to be deep and long and meaningful. I mean, all connection is meaningful. And I love what you're
Mm-hmm.
saying too about like just making eye contact with people on the street.
Yeah, yeah. And then I
Yeah.
actually passed someone. So the supplies I was gathering were branches, but like they had to be on the ground already. That's a big part of her rule around the branches and the sticks. So some of my branches were quite large, and they were in this like basket. So on my way to meeting her, I saw someone I know, and they went, "Where are you going with those branches?" And I was like, "Oh, just to see an old client, like I there for her art project." He said, "Oh, okay." And then he told me that he had made a Christmas tree out of branches this past Christmas. And I was like, "Oh, that's a cool coincidence." And he's like, "Where did you get them?" And I kind of pointed to where I got them. He's like, "I got my branches there too." And it was just this fun moment. Like I see this person like at least once a week because he also has a dog and our dogs get along. So like, when we see each other, we stop and we chat quickly. But we didn't have our dogs this time, but I had these branches, and it was this moment of like like we would have never chatted about the fact that we both gathered branches from the same little part of our neighborhood, had he not seen me with a big pile of them. So just
Yeah.
again, human connection,
Human
it's out
connection
there.
through
It's
osmosis, like through
yeah.
osmosis and just naturally
Hmm.
occurring in nature.
Yeah. How about you?
Okay, so I have a good cause for
Oh,
applause.
great.
Yeah, I'm excited to tell you about this. I didn't tell her this off microphone, everybody. Okay, so last week we had Alex on, Nurse Alex, also my sister-in-law.
Yeah.
And I want to read you a message she sent me.
Uh,
She said, "Hey, great job on the editing. I love the results. A few of my friends reached out to say they really liked the podcast. I
oh,
really loved it too. You guys have a great setup going. Thanks for having me on. I also wanted to thank you for having me on because I ended up reconnecting with people that listened to the episode and reached out. And I had a great brunch with a friend that I haven't seen for over 5 years. So
what?
thanks again."
Oh, man. I am like she's so nice. I that's wonderful. I keep wanting to say, I keep
This
wanting
is
to
why I
say,
didn't tell Shadow off microphone because I wanted her true reaction.
yeah. Well, I keep wanting to say I don't know what to say, but saying I don't know what to say means you do know what to say because that's what you're saying.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that with me. She was an excellent guest. I really enjoyed that episode, and like because we're editing and producing this content, like I had to listen to that episode a few times to get everything out of it that I needed around it. But with her stuff, I was like, wow, she is just a great guest. What a wonderful person she is.
We believe so much in what we're doing, but
Mm-hmm.
it's also really nice to get validation and to get feedback and to get feedback
Yeah.
from guests and feedback from listeners. And we
Mm-hmm.
love it. Those of you out there listening, when you send us a message or comment on our Instagram or let us know or give us a 5-star review or give us a review on Apple Podcasts or wherever you
Mm-hmm.
listen, it really drives us to keep going. And again, this is about human connection. It's just a really simple thing. Like, hey, you're doing
Yeah.
a great job. I loved the episode about this. I also
Mm-hmm.
got a message from another friend I haven't talked to actually this week saying, Great. Love the way you guys ask about advice versus listening, and your chemistry is
Mm.
awesome. And that
Oh,
was just from a friend I haven't talked to in a while. Like, isn't that amazing? Like, I just love that. So
yeah.
thank you. Thank you for all the feedback, and I wanted you to feel the love too, Shadow.
Yeah, no, I really like that. I also, it's funny that you would mention that because I got a message from someone who I would consider more of an acquaintance, and they sent a message saying, "Oh, this is on my to-do list today." And I went, "Whoa, okay, great." Like,
Yeah, it
so
matters, right? It
yeah,
matters when you
yeah.
just send these little things to people because it encourages them to keep doing the good work they're doing,
Mm-hmm.
and or just encourages them to just keep connecting in life. And it's just a little short connection. So those little tiny moments of connection and support
Mm-hmm.
matter. And oh my God, I just like pulled up my curtain from my window, and there's blue sky out there, and it was supposed to rain
Uh-oh.
all day today.
Oh, we're already feeling a
What?
lift.
What is happening? The universe is totally in line with us right now. I hope that blue
Yeah.
sky stays there till we're done recording. Stay there,
Okay.
blue sky. Oh my God. Anyways, okay, I'm having, every once in a while you have one of those moments where you feel like everything's coming together. Or you're like, I'm in
Yeah.
magic
Magic
moment.
moment.
Like magic moment. We're getting good feedback on the podcast, which we really appreciate, and that helps us know that we're doing a good job
Mm.
and that the experiment's working and that it's helping others. And then the sky turns blue. I don't know. See, I'm already an 8 out of 10 instead of a 7 out of 10 already.
Amazing.
We're only a few minutes into the podcast.
Yeah.
Oh man. Okay, you ready to share?
Yeah.
All right. I think I'm first. We haven't had an episode with just you and I in a while,
I
so
know. I'm so excited.
here we go. I have something that I would like to let go of in order to move forward. I regret punishing myself over unrealistic expectations during the winter months with my seasonal affective disorder. I'm going to reword this in another way. I regret not leaning into my seasonal affective disorder. There's a lot of stuff out there, especially as an entrepreneur. For me, it's coming through social media posts because the algorithm works that way, and it's successful people get up early in the morning, they get stuff done before this, or successful people work out so much, or successful people do this, that kind of messaging. I was going for a walk the other day, and I kind of had an aha moment. I realized I put that pressure on myself every winter. It's really hard for me in the winter. I really am, my body functions differently. I'm like a different person in the winter than I am in the summer. And every year I say, okay, in the summer I get up early, I go to rowing, I get a workout in, I go down to the beach. But in the winter, I cannot get up before 9 o'clock in the morning. It's really hard for me. And every winter, I'm like, I'm going to go to winter training for rowing because winter training still happens at 5:30 in the morning at the rowing club, weights and rowing machine stuff. I'm going to get up, I'm going to go. And then I don't, and then I can't do it, or I do it once or twice. It's really hard for me. The rest of my day is just totally burnt. If I get up and do that workout at 5:30 in the morning, I'm tired. I have to have a 3-hour nap in the middle of the day. So I regret setting almost these unrealistic expectations of this year I'm going to beat it. This year I'm going to beat my seasonal affective disorder, and this year I'm going to function in the winter the same way I function in the summer. For some reason in my mind it's like this year that's success, right? So I feel like I'm in this pattern of every fall, when it starts to get dark. I'm like, no, I'm going to keep this pattern. I'm going to keep getting up early. I'm going to keep working out. I'm going to keep this pattern I've had in the summer. This is my goal this year. I'm going to keep the pattern and be consistent. And I never do. It's just hard. And the thing is, I have a mental condition, which is also a physical condition, seasonal affective disorder, that literally makes it hard for me in the winter. I wake up in the morning, I'm trembly, I'm achy. It takes me anywhere from 1 to 3 hours to get out of my brain fog and to get into functioning and to not feel achy and trembly and slow and groggy and I feel heavy, and I have to go for a walk every day. I realize that too. I didn't do for a walk for 2 days in a row, I think, last week, and I I knew that the reason I was feeling more off than normal was because I didn't get that walk. Rain or shine, I need to connect to nature. I need to breathe fresh air. I need to let my mind wander or listen to a podcast while I'm walking. I need to connect to the baristas at my local cafe. I need to do these things. And I realized as I was doing that walk that I hadn't done in a couple of days, why don't I just lean into it? Just accept it and not make those commitments and not pressure myself. I'm going to let myself sleep until 9 every morning in the winter. It's fine. I'm going to give myself extra time in the morning and not schedule things before 11 o'clock in the morning so that I can get up, have my cup of tea, maybe just watch a TV show that I didn't watch the night before or something to just let my mind start to wake up, or listen to a podcast, or cuddle with Christian if he's home, or whatever. Like, just be really slow. I'm going to lean into that. And I've just, when I did that, when I said that to myself, I felt lighter, because I really felt like peer pressure and pressure on myself. And I don't even think the peer pressure exists. I put the pressure on myself to get up and go to workouts in the morning and all these sorts of things. I just accept that I can't do it. And that doesn't mean that I'm not successful. It doesn't mean that I'm a failure. It means this is who I am in the winter. And that's okay. I guess the consequence of me holding on to the punishing myself is I'm just going to continue to punish myself. And I need to accept, acknowledge, and work with what I've got where I'm at now. And that's my regret for today.
This one's really great. Do you want feedback today, or did you just want to share?
I'd love feedback.
Okay. Okay. I want to make sure I'm being careful with my next sentence. We have talked a lot on this podcast about connecting with nature. And even within this regret, you talk about connecting with nature. And yet, nature tells us every year to slow down in the winter.
Mm.
Is this just part of that for you, or do you think there was like an internal battle with knowing that, but then still putting this pressure on yourself?
What do you mean? Is this part of that for me?
Like,
You
we've
don't have to
talked.
be careful about your words.
No,
Just
no,
tell
no.
me what
I
you're
mean,
thinking.
like, is it because like you always talk about like being in nature and the wonder walks and letting your mind wander in nature and taking our cues from nature. And yet, when it comes to, I think specifically rowing, you put like you're almost kind of going counterintuitive to the lesson that nature's trying to show
Mm-hmm.
you.
Yeah.
So is it because is it mostly the rowing that you put the pressure on yourself, or is there other things you try to put pressure on yourself in the winter months?
I think it's waking up early,
Mm-hmm.
just in general. I think it is working out, like finding the energy to work out. The walk is a bit of a pressure too, but I also know that I have to do it
Mm-hmm.
because it makes me feel better, and it's almost like a prescription, right?
Yeah.
Like my therapist says, like, you have to get those walks in. Like, it really is like a prescription.
Mm-hmm.
And nature's like a piece of that walk. Like, if I went for a walk on a treadmill in a gym, it wouldn't be the same. Like, it needs to
Mm-hmm.
be a walk in nature. But I get what you're saying. Yeah, it is almost counterintuitive that I'm not taking my cues from the ebbs and flows of nature, or the natural progression of nature throughout the year. I'm trying to make the winter be the summer.
Mm-hmm.
And you're right, we naturally slow down and we hibernate. And my body and my brain, the way that it works with the seasonal affective disorder that I have, slows down more than the average bear, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
I'm like,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, I've been like in denial that it's going to happen, or think that I can fix it or cure it, instead of accepting
Mm-hmm.
that that's part of who I am and my like yearly process. And that's okay.
Yeah.
And I was talking with my therapist about this the other day too. It's different than clinical depression, right? Like, it's
Mm-hmm.
like, this is how my body works. There's things I can do for it. I can do my light therapy lamp. I have to do that every day. I can take my vitamin D supplements. I have to do that every day. I have to go for my walk every day.
Mm-hmm.
And I can be a relatively functional human being.
Right.
And it's okay to accept that and work with it.
Mm-hmm.
The reason it's okay to accept that and kind of work with it is winter will always end.
Right.
I know that there is an end to this.
Right.
I know rationally, and my body knows that when it starts to get lighter, I start to feel better and I have an amazing 6 to 8 months of the year when it's not dark, right?
Hmm.
Versus when I was clinically depressed, I didn't know when it was going to end.
Right.
I didn't know when it was going to end. It was hard to fight and hard to motivate myself to fight it. And we had to do like some serious therapy for that, right? But
Hmm.
SAD is not clinical depression. It's like I have to keep reminding myself winter will end,
Hmm.
light will come.
Yeah.
So take these time, exactly what you're saying. Like my body needs more time to regenerate and heal in the winter. That's who I am. So
Hmm.
okay, lean into it.
Yeah. Yeah, well, and
Lean into it.
I like what you're talking about with like the light therapy, the daily walk. Those things aren't time bound, right? You don't have to go for a walk before the sunrise. If you do, sure, great. That's a like, whatever, great for you. But I think you're actually really illuminating something for me here where I'm starting to think maybe seasonal affective disorder is is a natural response to being in nature. Like if you're like you do take your cues from nature. Like so in like the other seasons, you are able to get up early. You are able to kind of like be with the sun and do all those things. Even if it's, 5:30, it's still a little bit dark out, the sun's coming pretty much instantly. So I think you're just so in tune with nature that in the winter when nature's telling you to slow down, but you're also such a amazing person that you're like, no, I can't slow down. I got to keep doing these things. Um, but you can still, yeah, take this time to regenerate and hibernate. And I've recently learned that bears don't just go to sleep in the winter. Like they create a den underground under the snow and all that stuff, but they don't just sleep for those 4 months. They still do stuff. They get up, they do things, but they do it in a much more concentrated way.
Yeah, same with squirrels. People think
Right.
squirrels are hibernators. Squirrels aren't hibernators either.
Hmm.
They just sleep for longer periods of time. And
Yeah.
I think I've said this on the podcast before too, is squirrels are solitary creatures in the summer. And
Right.
then in the winter, they find other squirrels to nest with. So there might be 5 or 6 of them in a nest, keeping each other's warm. And then they go their merry way when it gets
Right.
summertime again. So there's
Cute.
like a huge lesson in that, right? And like being
Yeah.
in community in the dark times.
Hmm.
I agree with you, but I just like with one caveat, the thing
Yeah.
that I do, I don't know, worry about or feel like sometimes I can be minimized about
Sure.
SAD is this idea, and I see a lot of posts about this and stuff too. Yes, everybody gets like the winter blues or does get
Mm.
slower in the winter. It is a natural, like we're mammals, we're connected to nature. It is a natural thing, and I've talked about it too. But
Hmm.
people that have diagnosed SAD, it's like tenfold.
Yeah.
And so I just caution the self-diagnosing with SAD because it may just be a natural thing. Like for me, what can happen is the minimizing is like, well, everybody feels that way in the winter, Victoria. So like
Mm-hmm.
get up, get over yourself, get like these sorts of things. And I've had that messaging to me before.
Yeah.
And I do have a diagnosis and it's pretty serious.
Yeah.
It can be genetic. It runs in my family. My sister can't even live in this country. She lives in
Hmm.
Australia, right?
Right.
I think I've talked about this before. Like she cannot function
Right.
being here longer than 3 weeks, 4 weeks in the winter. Like it's just
Yeah.
her brain chemistry changes, her body changes, my brain chemistry changes, my body changes. So that's my one caveat is there is a difference between slowing down in the winter that we naturally do and someone that actually has SAD that has to fight a little bit more through it.
Yeah.
And I
Uh,
don't want to minimize that experience because I've been minimized before almost my whole life and been told like
mhm.
everybody has it. Why do you complain about it more than other people or
Right.
why do you
Right.
not I can even say this story like I still remember this. You have moments in your life where you're like is this happening or you really
Hmm.
remember these stories. I was working for a gym. This is like 20 years ago, okay? I was working for a gym. I had just been hired to be like a customer service front desk person, and this gym also sold tanning when tanning was big.
Hmm.
And they were training us on how to sell tanning. And the trainer She actually used the words SAD. Everybody
Mm,
has seasonal affective disorder. Everybody in Canada has it. And so you can tell them about seasonal affective disorder and then try to sell them tanning as a way to combat their seasonal affective disorder.
right.
And I had been diagnosed with seasonal affective disorder like when I was in like university. And
Hmm.
I wasn't that far out of university at this point, but and I put up my hand and I said, well, actually, that's not true. Seasonal affective disorder is actually like a condition. It's a mental illness and not everybody has it. And it's actually a diagnosis. She goes, nope, you're wrong.
Mm,
She said, nope, you're wrong. Everybody has it. And I also said, actually, like, I'm not really comfortable using this as a sales technique because the light rays in a tanning bed are not the same spectrum of light that's in a light therapy lamp that actually helps with seasonal affective disorder. And she
hmm.
also said to me in front of everybody, nope, you're wrong.
Mm,
And I'm sitting here thinking, this is a massive gym that's countrywide,
yeah.
has like several locations, and they're literally training their staff to say everybody has seasonal affective disorder
Mm,
and
hmm.
tanning helps it.
Right.
And I was sitting there going, what the fuck am I doing here? Right? But
Hmm.
I needed the job.
Right.
But I also was like, I cannot believe that this is happening.
Hmm.
And that was like well before we were seriously talking about mental illness. We were still
Yeah.
stigmatizing so many things. Everybody does not have seasonal affective disorder.
Hmm.
Everybody does have slow down naturally in the winter and have winter blues. And we all do need more sunlight and to search it out. And we'll feel better when we have it. But people
Hmm.
that have seasonal defect affective disorder feel it physically heavy emotion, like just in very deep and heavy ways. So that's my only caveat.
Yeah,
Is yeah.
I really appreciate the caveat because this is what I was trying to be careful about. I didn't want to minimize, my intent was not to minimize your experience. It's actually, my intent was to illuminate that I think you being so connected to nature is why you feel it even more than the
Yeah,
average person.
it could
So
be.
many people are really disconnected from the nature and their surroundings, but you make such an effort to be part of the natural cycle. And I've always found that really impressive. So I think, in at least like my perspective on it is not that, oh, everyone has it because nature impacts us. It's that because you are so connected and you make such an effort to be connected with our natural surroundings, I agree that it would impact you even heavier.
It's
Like
like
same
two
thing.
sides of a coin, right? There's like,
Yeah.
for me, the pros are nature super helps and I am really
Hmm.
connected, but the con is when I don't get it even for one day, it
Yeah.
affects me.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. And again, like you're getting all these signs that even when you are out there, like the nature's kind of being like, "Hey, get out of here." Like I'm being cold. Get away from me. I don't want you here.
And I'm like, but I just want to give you a hug.
Yeah, exactly. So that's why I wanted to be careful about it because I wasn't trying to say anything about, oh, everyone has it, but I do appreciate that that was how it came across. And I think that's a really important caveat to make. That's what I was trying to say
Yeah.
is that I think you are so one with nature that I am not at all surprised that that the winter impacts you even stronger.
Yeah.
Similar to the RSD RRE conversation we had, right? With
Yeah.
like rejection sensitive dysphoria is awful and feels awful, but it also means that your recognition response is euphoric. Like when you
Yeah.
feel seen, when you don't feel rejected, like you will do anything to get that feeling back because we just feel things on such a different level.
Thank you for making that connection for me too, because this REE and
RRE, yeah,
RRE and
yeah.
RSD diagnosis that I've recently gotten is new and I'm learning and I didn't
Hmm.
really make the connection to the SAD. So yeah, that makes total sense.
Yeah, because it's like
That makes total sense.
yeah, because,
Yeah.
and I mean, it's happened even on this podcast, like where, we're talking about something and like you think that, oh, well, no one's going to understand what I'm saying. But then either I say something and you respond or vice versa. And we go, oh, wow. And then you're like, you feel all this like bubbliness inside
Hmm.
because that's the other side of the coin of the RSD is yes, rejection hurts really hard, but love feels that much better. Like
Yeah.
it's, yeah. So,
And how can I lean into the
hmm.
REE? Yeah.
Yeah.
The
Yes.
recognition euphoria, everybody is what the REE is. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, and I think the one thing that really stood out to me, which is something I'm trying to be better about, is the expectations that when you do meet them, the rest of your day falls apart. So this like 5:30 winter training, when you have made it, the rest of the day becomes like, oh, now I got to sleep. Now I got to do this. And I've definitely noticed a few things like that for myself. So I really appreciate the like that idea that like, okay, so we put these expectations on ourselves, and when we meet them, we're supposed to feel really good, but then it kind of throws our whole routine out of whack, and that doesn't really feel good. So yeah, like I don't
So
really
why
have
did
a
I do
yeah.
it? Like, why did I do
Yeah.
that?
Yeah.
Like, just it's about acceptance too. I think
Hmm.
acceptance is one that maybe we need to start talking about acceptance more. Maybe that's the
Yeah.
next level of this experiment, but accept who you are right now
Hmm.
and move forward from that point.
Yeah.
Like realistic expectations and acceptance of who you are right now. This is
Hmm.
who I am right now.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
not I'm not summer Victoria. I'm winter
Hmm.
Victoria.
Yeah.
And that's okay. There's great
Totally.
things about winter Victoria too.
Yeah.
And I don't have to pressure myself or force myself to function the same way I do in the summer.
Do you have any like inkling fear that by accepting it, is there any fear to accepting it?
Sure, I think, especially when you own your own business, that's a wellness business, there's a lot of pressure and expectations of like, this is what a wellness person should be. Because I see it on
Hmm.
Instagram and social media, right? Like showing the workouts and showing this and like,
Yeah.
that's not the kind of like wellness coach or wellness instructor that I am. I'm
Hmm.
about like how do you have small and slow solutions and integrate them easily into your life, and then step by
Hmm.
step you gradually start to feel better and feel amazing and be the best you can be, right? But
Yeah.
there's a lot of that kind of tough love stuff out there, or like again, I'm gonna say like successful people get up at 6 in the morning or they
Hmm.
do this really hardcore workout or whatever. And I'm afraid of being judged as not being a good wellness coach or not leading by example, or
Hmm.
because I'm in the wellness industry and there's so much of that kind of messaging out there. And also like I honestly don't know how my rowers get up at 5:30 in the morning every morning for 365 days a year. I just can't do it.
Right. Right.
And so then I'm afraid of like being judged by them, which is
Right.
my brain just playing a trick on me. I know
Yeah.
that's my winter brain playing a trick on me. They're
Hmm.
not judging me
No,
for
for
not
sure.
coming. They all know I have seasonal affective disorder. Like they all know.
Hmm.
But like, yeah, there's always like a fear of being judged or being
Yeah.
seen as like a failure. I think that also comes from like my experience with my burnout at my job. But there was a lot of, I thought all my coworkers were my friends when I left the corporate world and I had that burnout, and they all turned their back on me and they all
Right.
judged me and they all talked about me behind my back. When I started saying I'm having anxiety and I have to leave work, like there were rumors going around that I was being a sore loser because I didn't get the job I
Hmm.
wanted to get when they finally made me permanent, and
Yeah.
I was taking advantage of the system. Like I've been judged before for being honest about my mental illness
Yeah.
in very harsh ways. I'm feeling this really deeply right now, by the way,
Hmm.
in very harsh ways, and it was part of my trauma when I had my
Yeah.
burnout. That, and again, this was like in 2014. People, we weren't talking about it as much, and I was one of the first
Hmm.
people to talk about it and
Yeah.
say the way that this workplace has been treating me and the expectations it's put on me has caused me to develop anxiety. And
Hmm.
my psychiatrist agreed
Yeah.
that I wouldn't have developed that type of anxiety if I hadn't experienced what I experienced in the workplace. And then once I came forward and said this, and hey, this needs to stop, and what can we do to change this and change it for me, but also change it for others in the workplace that are feeling the same way. Not only did the workplace bully me, all of my coworkers turned their backs on me too.
Hmm.
So sure, yeah,
Yeah.
I'm afraid of
Yeah.
leaning into like accepting and acknowledging the way that my brain works. That's how I'm going to say it now, because I'm also
Hmm.
still afraid to say mental illness because I'm still afraid people are going to judge me when I say I
Of
have a mental
course.
illness, right? The way that my brain works, like I'm accepting the way my brain works. And the thing is that I can be a person with SAD and with anxiety and RSD and REE.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean that I can't be happy and thrive while I have all of those things.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And, you very, very quickly realize we talked about this 2 episodes ago or 3 episodes ago with Nadia, our guest Nadia. You very, very quickly realize who's in your power circle,
Right.
who's in your support circle. And the lessons that I've learned is to lean into who is in my power circle or lean into who's in my support circle.
Mm-hmm.
And it's also not always easy, to be honest, about mental illness, but I feel better about myself when I'm honest. I feel lighter and
Mm-hmm.
freer saying, I'm going to lean into the SAD and I'm not going to pressure myself.
Yeah.
Because in the end, the only person that has to live with me is me.
Right.
I felt, this is almost turning into two regrets, but I felt a lot of anger towards all of those coworkers that turned their back on me that I had been
Yeah.
working with for 20 years and I thought they were my friends and we'd been in the
Mm-hmm.
trenches together, being of service, helping communities, right? I felt a lot of anger towards them and now I just feel sad for them.
Mm-hmm.
I really do, that they got caught in the pettiness and the gossiping and the judging, and that's not who they are or who I thought they were. I'm not angry at
Mm-hmm.
them anymore, but I'm really sad for them that they didn't have the strength to not lean into the group think mentality and
Mm-hmm.
not make me the bad guy. I'm
Right.
sad for them.
Yeah. Again, it has kind of morphed into this other regret as well, which again I think is why it's so sticky for you, is that it does kind of, it starts as like this one thing and then it kind of like impacts a lot of other areas. So thank you for sharing.
Yeah.
I think I'm
Thank you
gonna
for
stop
listening.
providing feedback here, but I just want to give you another minute or two if there's anything else you want to say.
I just want to say thank you, Shadow. Like every
Yeah.
time I have a conversation with you, it's healing. And
Mm.
the feedback that we got that we were reading at the beginning of the episode,
Yeah.
those of you out there listening to healing conversations, I hope encourages you to feel healed through maybe listening to our conversation, or
Mm.
encourages you to look for the people in your life that you can have the healing conversations with too,
Yeah.
and focus on that, and focusing on your needs and what you need to feel like a whole human being is not selfish, and knowing what your needs and your wants are. And I've had some real aha moments in the past 2 weeks about what my needs and wants are. And the biggest one was I'm going to lean into my SAD and let myself sleep in the morning and not pressure myself. But I feel lighter and freer from acknowledging what my true needs and wants and boundaries are. And they don't have to be the same 365 days of the year, but this is where I'm at right now. So thank you, Shadoe. You made me feel much better, actually. So I appreciate you. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. Thanks for sharing. Yeah, I think you're already well on your way because you talk about your slow and small solutions through your business. So yeah, I think acknowledging it, and even as you just said it, like knowing that you can't do it 365 days a year, instead of that being like a source of shame, maybe this summer it's a source of planning for
Yeah.
the upcoming winter.
That's the dream, Shadow. Honestly, if I could get everything accomplished in six
Right.
months and set myself up for the 6 months of winter,
Mm-hmm.
and the only thing I had to do like if I could actually do that, and then the only thing I had to do in winter was record this podcast, which I joyfully do,
Yeah.
and then the live classes that I teach
Mm-hmm.
as part of my membership, I joyfully do. I love teaching brain fitness,
Mm-hmm.
right? If like that's the only work I had to do in the winter was to record this podcast and teach the 6 live classes on Zoom a week,
Yeah.
that'd be awesome.
Right.
And my
Yeah.
I love my one-on-one clients too. I'm going to say that too. But it's all the other stuff in the winter that really bogs me down. The
Yeah.
administrative stuff, the making the
Right.
social media posts, the
Mm-hmm.
creating new courses, creating new classes, if I could get all that done and just do the thing that I joyfully love to do, which is really being with people in the
Mm-hmm.
winter.
Yeah.
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 That's a good goal.
Yeah.
We'll
And
talk about it in the summer
yeah,
and
and
see
it's a
how awesome
long
I am
yeah,
doing.
it's a long-term thing. Like it's, yeah, you can like nick like you can get at like pieces of it over time. But yeah,
Yeah, and
but
coming from the virtual assistant, that's what you could help me do, or you help people do, is like make
yeah.
those plans. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyways, thank you, Shadow. I
You're
appreciate you.
welcome. I do want to jump into my share.
Yeah, I'm ready for your
Yeah,
share.
you're ready?
Let's
Okay.
hear it.
I have an experience I need to let go of to move forward. I regret not understanding the full spectrum of fat liberation when I started my Instagram art project, The Word Fat. The purpose of this project was to help me with my self-esteem. I desperately wanted to remove the sting I felt every time I heard or read the word fat. So I thought I would use the word as my muse, drawing with it at the center, taking beautiful photos and adding the word within it. I kept going with a Fat Art Friday hashtag and received a few submissions from other people as well. And for the purpose of helping with my self esteem and these other people who submitted, it was successful. It felt good to channel my creativity into something that felt useful. However, body image, especially for fat people, is not just a mindset or self esteem issue. There's a lot of systems in place that reinforce the idea that having a fat body is inherently wrong. The problems arose when I tried to monetize the process of this. I thought developing a workshop where people could come share their experiences with the word fat would have a healing and helpful outcome. I created resource sheets, questions, coloring pages, activities. I made a body positive playlist. And I did run this workshop a couple times, and it did, parts of it were good and parts of it were really weird. And I realized that something I didn't understand at the time was that there was already a lot more people in this line of work that had done it for a lot longer and definitely deserved the money more than I did. Also, it turns out that this idea was not new, even if it was new to me. There had been zines dedicated to the same process and all kinds of other things like that. And another issue was that I wasn't ready to do the deeper work. I was only you working with the word fat at a surface level. It was an artistic outlet for my nerves and not something I was doing to change how fat people are treated in daily life. The consequences I am missing out on due to holding on to this regret is that I'm now scared to post anything new on the account. It's been on about a 2 year hiatus. The account is still active, as in you can find it on Instagram, but I've not been creating more art or receiving submissions. I'm also scared of finding, or not scared of it. I'm struggling with the right way to come back. Should I do an apology post, or will that seem insincere? Or should I just leave it alone? Anyway, when I created the project, I was doing everything I could in that moment with the tools I had, and that's okay. That is who I was then, and I have grown in so many ways. I'm nervous to share this, but relieved because I have shared other things on this podcast that weigh heavily on my consciousness, pardon the pun, and always feel better after sharing it. I am capable of using the word fat to describe myself without feeling that immediate pang of hurt. And although the experiment did not fix things for fat people, I am happy that it helped myself and a few others feel a little bit better.
Thank you. Do you want feedback, or you just want to be
Sure.
heard?
Yeah, feedback would be great.
I kind of have two sections of feedback
Yeah.
because I think there's kind of two things going on here.
Yeah, and I realized there I should have edited it
So,
away.
no, don't edit it. Not everything is like perfectly boxed,
Yeah,
as we
it's
learned with
true.
my regret,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
Like
yeah.
everything is connected and interwoven and baked into
Mm-hmm.
other things. Like that's just the human experience. So,
Yeah,
okay. The first one I want to address is like the imposter syndrome.
sure. Yeah.
So, you ran the workshops.
Yeah.
Then you're saying you realize other people have been running these workshops before and running them for like longer.
Mm-hmm.
So, what?
I just there's a real problem with like whiteness within the body image community and also with like people who like uh, again, it's an intersectionality issue, right? Like I I hold a lot of privileges, so to be offering this kind of workshop is just not quite right. And
It
it's not
doesn't feel, so it's not about imposter syndrome. It really just doesn't feel right for you.
yeah, it's
Okay.
about it's about being I, I don't even want to use the word ally because that's kind of gross. Yeah, it's about recognizing that I may be profiting off of another person's work, albeit unintentionally at the time. But
Hmm.
once I realized that that was kind of what was happening, I immediately stopped the workshops. I also, I pretty much stopped the account maybe a few months after that too.
So the only thing I'll say to that is because, again, this is a world that I totally don't understand.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to acknowledge that. I mean, in the wellness industry, I'm not teaching anything new. I'm like
Right.
taking information and I'm like, my job isn't to invent anything new. I'm not a researcher or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
What makes my classes unique and different is the way that I curate the information and the way that I present the information. So I'm not saying
Yeah.
that this information is mine.
No.
And there are tons of wellness coaches for women out there, right? And
Yeah.
some people are attracted to what I do, and some people are attracted to what somebody else does. Even if we're
Yeah.
teaching the same information, they're attracted to the way I'm presenting it, or the way I'm curating it, and the way I'm packaging it and putting together.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I do. That's what you are doing too. It's okay that somebody else is teaching the same information, but the
Mm-hmm.
people that are drawn to coming to your workshop were drawn to learning it from you and the way that you curated and packaged it.
I would say I would say the difference here is that wellness is an ever expanding field,
Mm-hmm.
and learning about fat liberation, there there isn't as many people wanting to learn it. And I just think there are other people who have, dedicated their lives
Mm.
to this. And for me, I don't want to kind of sound glib about it, but it was just an art project, right? Like it was an art project using the
Yeah.
word fat, like really stripping those three letters down and like having a lot of fun with just the word itself. And for me, the idea even came to me because I was one day on the subway. And do you remember when those free newspapers used to be around, like Metro
Yeah.
24 Hours or whatever?
Yeah.
So I was flipping through one of those newspapers, and three advertisements in a row, it must have been around the same time of year, were about fat burning. And about like one was
Mm.
like a chili pepper supplement, and it was like, get ready to burn that fat. And then the next page was like a personal trainer being like, book my program, blah blah, and it was 3 pages in a row that really used the word fat as the reason to purchase
Mm-hmm.
this product or this service. And I went, wow, like and I realized I still feel such a, or at that time I still felt such a sting, even just reading the word. I was like, oh man, like these people are obsessed with it. And at that point I had already gotten into like fat liberation a little bit, but it was definitely more from like the body image surface level stuff. It wasn't, digging deep to talk about how in many states in the US, it's still legal to fire someone for being fat. Like those protections aren't in place. So uh, things like that. And like once I realized that I was doing it on such a surface level,
Mm-hmm.
it felt cheap. It felt like I shouldn't be the person leading this. I should be just directing people to the people who they should be learning from.
So you want to be more of service in a connecting way than of service in a and of
Mhm.
service in like the deep healing way. You're like the starting point.
I guess too, it's like it wasn't just the workshops, like I was trying to actually monetize like paintings I had done with the word fat in it and stuff like that. And again, it just once I realized it just didn't,
So even
I don't
like,
know.
because can there be
Yeah.
a distinction between monetizing through workshops and monetizing through paintings? Like even selling your paintings felt weird.
Yeah, because again, it just felt like I was taking space from someone who should be receiving the money. And also like again, like there was a limit to my understanding of things, and there's still a limit to my understanding of it, right? Because
Hmm.
this experience kind of pulled me out of it a little bit. I do still follow a lot of fat creators and that kind of stuff, but I really fell out of wanting to be part of that community once I recognized my intersectionality of privilege that
Okay, so was there like an aha moment or something that pulled you away from the project? Like, did you get like messages on your Instagram account saying that I'm using air quotations here, doing it wrong?
no,
Okay.
I didn't get directly contacted. But because I was so like in it, I would see posts about like, oh, just another like not and now, again, my project was never brought to the forefront, but there was a
Okay.
lot of posts about people who had they had kind of accelerated to the top of the field, and people being really upset that like, well, of course that person is going to make money off this thing that I've been working on for 20 years,
Mm,
you know.
hmm.
And some of that, like I would see other creators kind of being torn down in that way.
And then did that make you afraid that you were going to be torn down? So you kind of stopped before it happened, or?
Yeah, I think that's part of it for sure. And then also a secondary thing came up where like I stopped doing the workshops, but I kept doing the art for a little while. I realized it had become a pretty big time suck,
Hmm.
which again is if that's how I felt about it, like maybe I shouldn't have started it in the first place. But it was becoming a time suck, and it wasn't bringing me any additional resources or joy or anything like that.
I
So,
think there's also this like vaguely in a weird way almost connects into mine slightly
mhm,
is there's this thing about like finishing a project, especially if
right.
it's a project that's like being of service or you're trying to change the world or
Hmm.
whatever. I think there's like a real power in acceptance of like I'm not into this anymore
Right.
or this isn't working for me anymore. Because if you're really trying to change the world through what you're doing, if you're not like buying into it 100%, you're not going to change the world.
Hmm.
I think it's okay that you stopped, observed it,
Hmm.
reassessed it, and you're kind of acknowledging it. But did you have to grieve it, or do you feel good with your decision, or what are
It's
the
interesting.
lingering feelings, I
The
guess?
lingering feelings is that I keep thinking I'm going to come back to it at some point. Like I'm going to crack the code. I'm going to crack the code
Yeah.
and come back with like oh, and I'm going to create the perfect like bomb of like, oh, I did this wrong. So I stopped doing the project, but I'm back now. So if you want to submit your stuff, like submit it this way. And like, again, this unrealistic expectation that like I'm gonna be able to put out the perfect piece of content that lets me
Mm.
come back to the project without feeling gross about it, I guess.
Well, it sounds like you're like in the process right now of reframing it.
Hmm.
Because it sounds like you still want to do something around it, but you just need to
Yeah.
reframe it in a way that aligns with your integrity and
Hmm.
what makes you feel good about it.
Yeah.
Because the thing is that you have a story to share too, and you
Hmm.
are a person living in a larger body and you have
Yeah.
experiences to share, and that's valuable for people to hear, and it's
Hmm.
valuable for people to heal and have greater understanding. So I guess my only like I don't know observation concern or whatever is that you're minimizing yourself.
Mm.
Make sure you're not minimizing yourself because what you have to say matters too. Maybe
Hmm.
it's in a different way, or you're again, I think you're in the process right now of like reassessing it, but
Hmm.
find a way that feels good for you. And maybe it's just this podcast and we talk about
Right.
podcast, right? But
Yeah.
find a way that feels good for you because what you have to say about it matters and your lived experience and your experience matters too. And it can help people
Hmm.
too, much in the same way that the people that you kind of look up to or follow that have been doing this kind of work forever, as you say, and are doing
Yeah.
great work, you matter too. And your story matters too.
Yeah. That's helpful. I think yeah, for me, I think it's also like to bring it back to a little bit of the ADHD. Like I started that project before I knew I had ADHD. So I
Oh,
think it
interesting.
was one of my outlets, right? Like I even said it was a
Mm,
creative outlet for me to kind of put this energy into. And I mean, it did help me. Like if someone on the street calls me fat, I'm like, it just rolls off my back now, where like that could have happened 5 years ago and I would have been crumbled for a day or two. And it's like, as opposed to being just, again, sad for that person that they have no power or control in their life, that they yell things at strangers. And again, like how uncreative.
Yeah.
That's
To
like,
call
that's like,
someone fat, like how
like,
uncreative,
like, especially
honestly.
when they are fat, like, it's like, yep, you're right. Like, I don't know where to go from here. Like, other than to just like be like, wow, you have eyes, or like that's used to be what my mom used to say all the time. Wow, your powers of observation are incredible. Like, you should go into fortune telling. But that's all, that would always be kind of like a hurt response too, where now like I've moved past I've moved past feeling insulted by someone who would call me fat. And 13-year-old me would have never thought that was possible.
I think
So
that's so empowering, Shadow. That's what I mean by your story. Like for me, hearing you say that, I'm sure for
mhm,
those listening, hearing you say that, like that's the part of your story that's amazing. That you're
mhm,
saying like you've found a way to move past that. Like that's incredible, and
mhm,
people need to hear that, right? And regardless if you're like a larger person or a smaller person,
mhm,
because I need to hear that too. So that's valuable.
mhm. Yeah,
That's
and
like
I think like my regret is that I did see the power in that aspect. But then I started seeing like lots of posts about the people who were in the I think it's because a lot of the comments were about people in the body positive community, and body positivity is not the same as fat liberation. Because body positivity is putting it all on the individual's shoulders, and fat liberation is about changing society. So
Can
I
you
was
can you explain that a little bit more? Like, what do you mean putting
sure.
it all on body positive? Can you just explain body positivity is putting it all on the individual shoulders, like
It's yeah,
with an
it's putting
example or?
yeah, it's putting pressure on an individual to say, well, I love my body and I'm positive about it. So, and that is useful. It's
Hmm.
useful, but it
Yeah.
has been co-opted, right? Like it has become kind of a buzzword in the wellness community. There's a lot of thin white women using it as like oh my God, I can pinch this 1 little inch of fat on my body, or they have to like
Hmm.
bend over to create a stomach roll and they're like, this is normal. And it's like,
Yeah, that's so true. That's so
but
true.
like, who does that comfort, right? It comforts other thin women who have that one little role versus
Right.
like being fat isn't just about, oh, I don't look good in a bikini. Like, it's not about that. It's about this whole other aspect of living.
That the world isn't built for larger
Yeah.
people.
Yeah.
You can totally tell me if I'm wrong.
No,
But
that's exactly it. Like,
like
I mean, I,
chairs and
yeah,
seats
I was just,
and
it's so funny you bring
yeah.
up chairs. I was just going to say, I was at Women's College Hospital here in Toronto recently for something, and there was a variety of chair sizes available. And I
Oh,
was
interesting.
floored. I was like, whoa, like this is so cool. Like, that's the thing. It's not about replacing all of the chairs with chairs that would fit a 500-pound or more person. It's about having those options available. Because like you don't want to be at the doctor's office at all in the first place, let alone being at the doctor's office and like squeezing into a chair that like the arms of the chair dig into your hip
Mm-hmm.
bones. And then they're like, oh, go be comfortable in the waiting room. And I'm like, I'm going to stand. And they're like, oh, no,
Mm.
take a seat. And it's like, your seats aren't made for me, but that's okay. I'm just going to stand. Like, you're not going to say that to the person. You're just going to kind of internalize it. And yeah, so like body positivity doesn't change the fact that most places don't have chairs that are made for
Okay.
everyone.
I
Where
understand now.
yeah,
I didn't understand before what you were
yeah,
saying. I get it.
yeah,
Okay. Thank
yeah.
you.
So yeah, or like body positivity is saying like it doesn't matter how I look in a bikini, like I'm gonna buy one. If at the same time like you can still buy a bikini at a store, you're not living a
In a world where
supersized
there isn't a
like
bikini available in your size.
exactly.
I'm feeling like a little bit of a correlation too. Maybe my brain is just
Hmm.
trying to understand it better with
Sure.
aging,
Right.
right? Like
Yeah.
there's kind of this body positivity thing around aging. Like this is
Hmm.
my gray hair and these are my wrinkles kind of
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah. As opposed to like, I'm going to need support for a dementia risk or a fall risk or all these other things that come with aging, but we're really focused on, well, I still look great even with my gray hair.
Yeah, and I also think there's like a whole middle piece, which is what I strive to do with a lot of the programs
Hmm.
I run, that's why I focus on women 40 and older, is like once you start aging, you're just considered to be 85. Like there
Right.
actually isn't a lot of like programming or things in the world for people that are actually actively aging. It's either you're going to pretend to be that you're 30, and
Hmm.
you there's like examples of like women that are 70 that work out like they're 30, and you
Yeah.
see that they've put a lot of work into that, let me tell you.
Hmm.
Or the alternative is you can go do a gentle fit class on a chair. Like there
Right.
isn't this like space in there between the age of like 40 to 75, 80, because I think people are aging better, but we're not providing a world to let them age better.
Yeah.
So I'm not trying to minimize what I'm just
No,
trying to
you're
like
not.
understand,
Yeah.
right? Like in terms of like here's programs for 60-year-olds where they're actually I'm going to use working out as an example
Yeah.
because 60-year-olds can still do incredible workouts. It doesn't have to be
Yeah.
gentle fit on a chair with a 1 pound weight.
Hmm. Hmm.
But a lot of those things don't exist, or a lot of those things don't exist in the built world too. So,
Right.
and I guess maybe my brain goes there because I'm like 42 now and I'm like seeing it coming and I'm like, how do I celebrate that? So,
Yeah.
did I just minimize you?
No, not at
Okay.
all. No,
Okay.
that's exactly, no, I think
Okay.
that's a great correlation that would help people understand the difference between the two things. Yeah. And like, again, it's not to say that body positivity is bad, it's just that it doesn't go deep enough. And I realized that my project wasn't going deep enough. And I was scared of how to go deeper without mucking it all up. So I just walked away from it because it had served its original purpose was to make me feel better about the word. And with that being the purpose, it served its purpose for me. And then that's also kind of where I start. It's not an imposter syndrome thing. It's more of like okay, well, I took what I got from it and now I'm moving on to a new project versus like the people who are in it are in it. This is
Yeah.
their passion. This is what they feel they
Yeah.
were put on the earth to do.
Yeah.
And if those people exist, then those are the people who should be getting money for the workshops around this kind of activity. Because for me, it was a self-esteem builder. And it's weird because I already know that that's not enough. But at the same time, I don't think I'm interested in going beyond that, if I'm being really honest about it.
And that's okay. Like it's okay to accept that
Yeah.
it's not like is part of the regret not having closure with it? Like would it make you feel better to
Mm,
do a post saying this is still an active account. I hope you enjoy what you see, but I've walked away from it because I feel this way now.
I mean, that is one of the consequences I'm feeling over the regret is that, like, I think I do want to close it down, but yeah, at this point, it's almost like it's been over 2 years. So I don't think I need to make an announcement to close it down.
Well, the announcement
Like,
maybe isn't for the followers, maybe it's just for you. And then you're putting it out to the world by putting it up there.
right, but then that's just self-serving, and that's not,
That's not self-serving, that's self-healing.
yeah.
If that's what you need to do, that's what you need to do. That's not self-serving at
Hmm.
all. That's
Hmm.
not so I don't think that's self-serving at all. I think that's self-healing
Yeah.
and showing your integrity and who you are.
Hmm. Yeah, and then yeah, no, that's and maybe I will do that. I probably won't do it immediately, but
Just
it's
just
yeah,
food for
yeah,
thought, right? Or
yeah,
think about it
yeah.
because I'm getting that sense in you. But is
Hmm.
there anything else that you want to say about it?
Yeah, I guess the other thing that I kind of think about too is like, remember how I think we've talked about this before. I was published a few years ago in an anthology.
Yeah.
Um, my essay in that anthology is about this Instagram. So it's like
Oh,
if I
interesting.
close it and like let's say someone picks up the anthology tomorrow and then they read my story and they really like it and then they go to my account and then the account's closed. I don't want to make anyone feel weird, but I guess at this point, because there hasn't been any posts in 2+ years, they're gonna have that same,
So does it make you better to leave it up and not delete the account? Again, going back
yeah.
to like just having another post saying, I've grown as a person since
Hmm.
wrote that essay and since I had this account and here's why, but please enjoy what's here.
Yeah, maybe that's a good way to do it. I'm gonna draft it. I don't think I'm gonna post it anytime soon, but I'm definitely gonna draft it. Yeah.
Because like that's something again, like this is gosh, this is like pure, this is total regret, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
we look back on things. I do it often too. Is like
Mm-hmm.
we think that things we've done in the past or successes we've had in the past dictate who we are now too, and they don't
Right.
have to.
Mm-hmm.
Accept where you are at right now, and that's okay too.
Yeah.
I think to feel like that's like one of the seeds of regret just in general in life,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm. And I think that when I was in it too, I thought it was a lot more important than what I think of it now. And I think there's like almost an embarrassment there that I thought I was doing this really cool, awesome, wonderful thing. And really, I was just scratching the surface of a body image issue and not,
Yeah.
changing the world the way I thought I was.
But that comes down to like the last line of our regrets always is right.
Right.
Like that's who I was then,
Yeah,
and I've
true.
learned and I've grown and I know more
Mm-hmm.
now. And if I had known then, I would have done it differently, but I didn't.
Yeah, right. True.
And you're not who you were then.
Oh, absolutely not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I thank you. I think this is just relatable. Everything you always share, I always say it's relatable, but relatable on like multiple levels in terms
Mm,
of like how you're feeling and like you've educated us today too.
right.
I didn't know that like concept between like body positivity and fat liberation. So thank you
Mm-hmm.
for that as well. And thank you for being honest and vulnerable and talking about it.
Thank you for listening.
Yeah, I appreciate you.
Appreciate you.
Are you ready for 3 breaths? Yeah, I
Yes.
think you are. Okay, everybody, come on to the front edge of your chair. Put your feet flat on the floor if it is safe for you to do so. And just feel your feet connect to the earth. Allow yourself to become more grounded in a little bit more of a centered space. Placing one hand on your heart. With a big inhale through the nose and a big exhale through the mouth, saying to yourself, may you be well. On this next breath, as you breathe out, may you be kind to yourself. And on this next big breath in, as you exhale, may you be safe and at ease. Thank you so much for joining us today. We appreciate you too out there listening, and we hope you have a wonderful day. We will catch you in the next one. Okay.
Okay, bye.
Bye.
Yeah. This episode of Let's Relieve Regret was produced by Shadoe Ball and Victoria Mir-Garcia. We are an independent podcast supported by you, our listeners.
You can become a supporter by donating $3, $5, or even $8 per month at www.letsrelieveregretpodcast.buzzsprout.com and click on the support button. You can find the link in the show notes.
Our goal is to empower as many women as possible to overcome the shame and guilt that accompanies regret.
If this podcast helped you have an aha moment, help us spread the word. It's free for you, and it means the world to us.
Please follow us on Instagram at relieve.regret.
Tell 2 friends.
Or leave a 5-star review on Spotify or Apple Podcasts.
Find all this information and more in the show notes. Okay,
Bye.
bye.